All praises to the Most High. All praises to the Most High. Blessed be our Father, Yahuwah, Elohim, Almighty. Blessed be the Ruach HaKodesh and our Messiah, Yahusha, HaMashiach. Greetings, Yashar'al worldwide. Good to see everybody again. And of course, I have another word for the listening ears of Yah's people. And family, this one here will be entitled The Seesaw Up and Down Relationship with Yashar'al and Elohim, Yah's Final Triumph over 83. And I'll be coming out of the Ethiopian Bible first. I have some from the Old Testament Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1, Testament of Moses, and I have one from the 66. But right now, family, we are chilling on the set.
This song is dedicated to all the new people who just came to the truth.
Family, please watch the entire video. I promise you, you will be blessed.
My advice to you is just ignore it.
Ignore him, family. Keep the Most High first. Keep His law.
That's what we doing over here.
We rested. We're chilling on the Sabbath.
That's what we doing. We chilling on the Sabbath.
We're chilling on the Sabbath.
Y'all go to church on Sunday. They all confused.
We're chilling on the Sabbath.
We're chilling on the Sabbath. Sabbath day of the week.
We're chilling on the Sabbath. Saturday, sundown. Said we're chilling on a Saturday.
While everybody's out
Doing what they want to do. We're reading scriptures and singing to the Most High.
'cause we know the law.
And we keep our Father's holy commandments.
So let people say what they want to say.
Let them mock you, but keep it day. Yeah.
We gon' be ready when Christ returns.
They be having church on the wrong day, and they despise everything that we say. Yeah. Even when we show them in the holy word. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. And we should always honor the Most High and do exactly what He says.
And don't let the non-believers convince you
That the law is done away with. You just rest and chill with the Most High, 'cause the Father knows who's His. So you tell them we're chilling on the Sabbath. Say we're chilling on the Sabbath.
don't call me, don't leave me answer my phone.
We're chilling on the Sabbath. On the Lord's day, we're chilling on the Sabbath.
Lean back on you, tell them this right here. Now don't look for me.
On no Sunday at your church no more, 'cause now I keep the holy Saturday.
See, I can show you in my Bible.
Exodus chapter 20. Scroll down and look at verse 8. Verse 8. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. In the midst of much confusion, we decided to unify. We won't let the vision die. We know there is a greater purpose, one and one destiny, and we'll all stay aligned to us, preferred by Yah. Man keep his hand in the hand of Yah, with woman by his side. Our children will follow, and together in unity we'll shine and glorify Yah. Together forever we'll glorify Yah. In unity together we'll glorify Yah. In truth and in unity. One love, one destiny, one great family. In truth and in unity. One love, one destiny, one great Yah family. Family, I better get on with this message. I've been trying to get it together for the last about not a couple of hours, but maybe a good 45 minutes. But I didn't realize that, sometimes when you put stuff in the trash, you think you deleting it, but it stayed in the trash 30 days and it backs up and it take up a lot of space. And so I just had to get rid of like about 47 videos. I had to really delete them. 47 of my teaching videos, messages that was still in the phone taking up space. So anyhow, family, before I start reading scriptures, now I'm gonna show you, family, like with this relationship that our people has always had with Yah. Like right now, we're in our last captivity, But when our people was led out of Egypt by Yah with his servant Moses into the wilderness, this is where our people became the nation of Yashar'al. Okay, so just fast forward, after Moses passed and Aaron and Miriam and that generation, because of their sins, they were caused to wander in the wilderness 40 years, and then their offspring with Joshua and Caleb was to lead them into the land of Canaan. That land was already given to them, but the Hamites had occupied that land even before our people became in Egyptian bondage. And so if you read in the book of Jubilees, Noah and his sons and his sons' sons, they all made an oath that for any brother that took land that was not allotted to him, he cursed himself and his generations all the way up to judgment. Okay, so this is why Yah told Joshua in Yashar'al, when you go in the land of Canaan, take out everybody that's in the land, because they cursed themselves by taking land that didn't belong to them. They knew that land was not theirs, but they took it anyway. So they cursed themselves. This is why Yah told Yashar'al, take them all out. And if you allow yourself to not do that, they're going to become a snare to you. And that's exactly what happened. Our people started mingling with them, marrying their daughters, allowing their daughters to marry Yashar'al's sons. And then our people started serving their false gods. And they became a snare to Yashar'al, just like Father Yah said. So you also see in this message, family, that Yah would raise up, one from the Yashar'al to help our people when they cried out to him. And then Yashar'al would destroy the nation that had them captive. And then after that servant that Yah raised up to help Yashar'al, he would die. And then the offspring would forget about the relationship that their ancestors or forefathers had with Yah, and then they would start sinning all over again. So this was a seesaw relationship that Yashar'al has had with our Father all the time, but he never totally kicked them to the curb. He would have them, in bondage in other people's lands for a time after they suffered their punishment, and then he would raise up one from Yashar'al and have them to free themselves from their captivity. But Yashar'al never dealt with, as far as like trusting in other nations, to help them out of that situation. Our people always depended on Elohim. That would be the Father, the Ruach HaKodesh, and the Son. That's Elohim. All of them together is Elohim, okay? So anyway, the people who claim to be Judah in the land over there in the state of Israel, they're always looking to the United States for money and weapons. So what is that saying? It proves that they are not the chosen seed of Yashar'al. They're not the apple of his eye, because they don't even depend on Father Yah. They depend on the United States. Those people are perpetrating the real Yashar'al. The real Yashar'al, we are scattered around this world. Okay? And some of us are teaching the truth, because our Father has turned back to us, giving us the Ruach HaKodesh. We know who we are. We know why those things happen to us. And we're sharing this word via social media and different places, speaking the truth, okay? Because they stole our heritage, which is our land. They stole our identity. but the Ruach has brought things back to our remembrance. Okay? And so they're still perpetrating their lies, though. So even though Yah used nations to take down his chosen people, but at the same time, those nations stole our land, so they cursed themselves and their generations all the way up to the day of judgment. They have to pay for all of that. They're lying about scriptures. They hid things. They're claiming to be Yashar'al. And, these people in the state of Israel, you got the Tomorrow's World Church in Pasadena, California, lying, saying they're the 10 tribes of Israel, but they're not. You got people just perpetrating lies. Our people didn't get away with the wrong and the sins that they committed. He cursed his own chosen. So the Gentiles got it coming, and their judgments have already started happening. Okay? And he will eventually go take them all the way out. You'll see that in this message too. Okay, family, I will start reading from the Ethiopian Bible, from the book of Judges first. I'll be covering a lot of scriptures. So please, put on your listening ears, family, and understand, why we got to where we are now in our last captivity. But it started with our ancestors long ago with the Seesaw relationship with our Father. But he has never totally kicked us to the curb and chose another, like the Gentiles, like they try to lie and say. I never did that. No parent will kick their children to the curb just because they messed up. You'll get on the punishment, and this is what our Father will do to his chosen people. He's chastised those whom he loves. And this is what our people been getting off and on all the time. Okay, and our last king we had in the land of Yashar'al was Judah, the southern kingdom, was King Zedekiah. Okay, so the Gentiles has been on top of us ever since. All the time we've been under them, that has been Jacob's trouble. It ain't gonna be no Jacob's trouble coming into the future. We've been suffering Jacob's trouble ever since the Gentiles been in power over us. So don't listen to those people in those camps that push the lies of the Gentiles themselves. Okay, so the book of Judges here, family, this one is headlined The Cycle of Forgetfulness. After Joshua's death, the Israelites sought the Adonai's guidance on who should lead the fight against the Canaanites. The Adonai chose Judah, and Judah invited the tribe of Simeon to join him. Together they defeated the Canaanites and Perizzites at Bezek, killing 10,000 men and capturing King Adoni-Bezek, cutting off his thumbs and big toes. He acknowledged divine justice, having done the same to 70 kings. What you put out, what you get back. Okay, Judah then attacked Jerusalem, set it on fire, and continued southward, conquering Hebron and Debir. Caleb promised his daughter Akshah in marriage to whoever captured Debir, and Othniel, his nephew, succeeded. Akshah requested and received land with springs from Caleb. The Kenites, relatives of Moses' father-in-law, settled in the wilderness with Judah. Judah and Simeon also destroyed Zephath, renamed it Hormah, and captured Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ekron. Though victorious in the hill country, Judah couldn't conquer the valleys due to the Canaanites' iron chariots. Caleb was granted Hebron and drove out the giants there. However, many tribes failed to fully drive out the Canaanites. Benjamin couldn't remove the Jebusites from Jerusalem. The house of Joseph conquered Bethel with the help of a local man who showed them the entrance, sparing him and his family. But Yah told him to take out everybody. So this man, because he helped them and showed them the entrance, they spared him and his family. Manasseh failed to remove many Canaanites towns and instead subjected them to forced labor. Yah did not tell them to put them people to labor. He told them to take out everything that's alive because they cursed themselves for taking land that didn't belong to them. So now you can see Israel is being disobedient while they're in the land and not doing what Yah told them to do, okay? And he said it's going to cause them to be a snare in them if they let those people live, okay? The same happened in Ephraim in Gezer, Zebulun in Kitron and Neholol, Asher in several coastal towns, and Naphtali in Beth-Shemesh and Bethaneth. The Amorites resisted Dan, forcing them into the hills. Though the house of Joseph eventually dominated the Amorites, their failure to fully expel the Canaanites inhabitants became a widespread issue. Of course, it became a widespread issue because Yah told y'all to get rid of all of them. Okay? But if you don't be obedient to what Yah said, it's going to be some widespread issues all the time. Okay? An angel of the Adonai rebuked Yashar'al at Bochim for disobeying Elohim's command to destroy pagan altars and make no covenants with the land's inhabitants. Because of their disobedience, Elohim declared he would no longer drive out the nations, and they would become thorns and snares. The people wept and sacrificed to the Adonai at Bochim. After Joshua dismissed the people, they occupied their territories and initially remained faithful during his lifetime and that of the elders who had witnessed Elohim's miracles. Joshua died at 110 years old and was buried in Ephraim. But the next generation forgot the Adonai and turned to Baal and Ashtaroth. They abandoned the Elohim of their ancestors, worshiped the gods of surrounding nations. He said they was going to do that, and that's exactly what they did, because he knows all things, and provoked Elohim's anger. As punishment, Elohim handed them over to plunderers and enemies, and they could no longer stand against them. It reminds me, when I was in the kindergarten before we went to foster homes, because my mother and father had separated and stuff, and it was about 8 of us still young kids, and we had a big family. But the 4 oldest, my 2 oldest brothers and 2 oldest sisters, they was old enough where they didn't have to go. But the 8th young of us, so that was like 4 sisters and 4 brothers, okay? And we stayed not far from the Jackson 5. I had 6 oldest sisters. I was born in 64. My youngest sister was born in 59, a year after Michael Jackson. But I had another sister born in 58 who was in the kindergarten with him. And my sister Mary, who was 10 years older than me, she was born in 54. She used to go with Tito in the 6th grade. But I'm saying all this to say, family, reading these scriptures, how Yah chastised Yashar'al when they was disobedient to him. And I remember when I was in the kindergarten, my mother told me it had rained outside. She told me, don't go playing out there in the mud puddles on the way to school. Mess them clothes up. As soon as I left the crib, got to the cross street, there was a puddle of water right there. I can still remember it like it was yesterday. It is 1969 or 1970. I can still remember it like it was yesterday. I see that water, I start jumping up and down in it. I didn't know my mother was still looking at me out of the door. And she called out my name real loud and called me back. And I went back and she tore my butt up. You know what I'm saying? And I went to school with tears in my eyes. But anyway, it makes me think of them Jackson 5, them Jackson boys who slandered their father, talking about he used to beat them and whoop them. Man, everybody got it back in the day. Everybody got it back in the day, but at least it kept them out of jails and prisons. You know what I'm saying? That's what them whoopings was for, to dry the devil out of you. You know what I'm saying? But then I eventually went to a foster home. Me and my brothers and sisters got split up. But me and 2 of my brothers went together. And then we was there like 9 years. So 1979, when I was just turning 15, my real mother got me and my 4 brothers back. But my sisters was all grown women. They was out on their own. And so my mother gave us a lot of freedom and laid down the rules at her home. She said, y'all don't have no curfew. I was 15. You know what I'm saying? Whoa! So my mother gave us a lot of freedom. And then in that neighborhood where I went wrong at, I got with the wrong crowd. Because my foster parents were saying, when I go visit them, they would say, you did better than all them other boys in school, and we never hardly had any trouble out of you. What happened when you left here? And when I got out of prison in 1988, at the age of 24, and they was asking me those questions, and I said, when I left here, it wasn't nothing. They was like, what did we do wrong? What did we not do? What did we miss? I said, it wasn't y'all. You know what I'm saying? I said, when I left here and moved down there, in the neighborhood where my mother got the house at, I got around the wrong crowd. I was hanging out with dudes that was dropouts, and my brother Terry and William, who was older than me, they were telling me, man, we weren't raised like that. You going to hell. And so But I had to learn the hard way. I ended up going to prison, but I learned my lesson, you know what I'm saying, because we was taught, we was raised really proper, you know what I'm saying. So I knew that I was, not raised like I was doing the stuff that those boys was doing. I knew it was wrong, but I was just caught up and trying to get fast money, and that's how I ended up in prison, And so, while I sat down on my bed in prison, after being locked up over 2 years, I was 23 years old, I analyzed my whole life. And I started thinking about everything that I did that caused me to get in trouble. And then I was like, one by one, I was thinking, what caused me to do that? It was like, that wasn't even my idea. What caused you to do that every time I got arrested? Did you have to do that? It was like, nope. Everything, it was nope, I didn't have to do that. I shouldn't have been arrested then. If I hadn't been a follower trying to be friends with these dropout dudes, and would never say no to them because I wanted them to like me. And I said, man, that's how I got caught up. And so I made up my mind before I even got out, I'm hanging out with my family, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna learn to say no to people. You know what I'm saying? And I taught my sons, people try to get you to get high off stuff, get drunk with them, just to be their friend. I tell my sons, you don't need friends like that. Because I don't want you to make the mistakes I made. But anyway, family, Israel back in trouble with the Most High off and on ever since we've been a nation. But Scripture says he chastised those whom he loves, okay? So when your parents get on you for doing wrong, they chastising you because they love you and they don't want you to go down the wrong road if you keep on that path. That's love when they punish you, okay? Just like our Father do Yashar'al, okay? He ain't kicking us to the curb forever. It's to teach us a lesson so we'll know to do right the next time. That's what the punishment is about, okay? But the Gentiles in 83 ain't getting away with their sins in the world either, okay? Whenever they went, Elohim's hand opposed them. Still, Elohim raised up judges to rescue them, but the people didn't listen to the judges and quickly returned to idolatry. Idolatry is putting things before Yah, okay? Whenever Elohim appointed a judge, he helped that leader and gave Yashar'al peace for a time. Yet, after each judge died, the people grew even more corrupt than before. They stubbornly refused to change, so Elohim declared he would no longer drive out the remaining nations, using them instead to test Yashar'al's faithfulness. The nations left in the land were meant to test the Israelites and teach the new generations the arts of war. These included the 5 Philistine lords, the Canaanites, the Sidonians, the Hivites of Mount Lebanon. The Israelites lived among these pagan peoples, intermarried with them, and worshiped their gods. They forgot the Adonai and served Baalim and sacrificed graves and sacred groves, okay? Elohim's anger burned, and he delivered them into the hands of Shushan-Rishaim, king of Mesopotamia, whom they served for 8 years. When they cried out, the Adonai chose Othniel, Caleb's younger brothers, as a deliverer. The spirit of the Adonai empowered him, and he defeated the Mesopotamian king, bringing 40 years of peace. After Othniel's death, Yashar'al sinned again. You see that? And Elohim strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab. Now he's raising up a king from the Moabites to take down Yashar'al because of their sins against him. Allied with Ammon and Amalek, Eglon attacked Israel and occupied Jericho. Israel served him for 18 years. Then Elohim raised up Ehud, a left-handed Benjamite. Ehud crafted a double-edged dagger, hid it on his right thigh, and brought a tribute to Eglon. Pardon me. After dismissing the other envoys, he claimed to have a secret message for the king. Once alone with him, Ehud stabbed Eglon in the belly. The dagger disappeared into the king's fat, and Ehud left the body and escaped. The servants, thinking Eglon was resting, delayed checking on him. By the time they entered, he was dead, and Ehud had fled. Ehud rallied Yashar'al, led them in seizing the Jordan, crossing, and killed about 10,000 Moabite warriors. Yashar'al regained its freedom, and the land had peace for 80 years. Following Ehud, Shamgar, son of Anath, struck down 600 Philistines with an ox goad and also saved Yashar'al. This one man, Shamgar, son of Anath, struck down 600 Philistines. That's the kind of power I usually have in my dreams, family. And sometimes I don't want to wake up. Because that power like that was when it's from Yah. When the Spirit comes over you, you know what I'm saying? He give you that power to take out your enemies. And sometimes in my dreams, I'm fighting enemies, okay? Okay, now this part says deliverers and disorders. This is still in the book of Judges in the Ethiopian Bible. After Ehud died, Israel once again turned to evil. Okay, and Elohim allowed them to fall under the oppression of Jabin, king of Canaan, whose powerful general Sisera commanded 900 iron chariots. For 20 years, the Israelites were cruelly oppressed until they cried out to the Adonai. At that time, Deborah, a prophetess and judge, led Israel. She summoned Barak and reminded him of Elohim's command to gather 10,000 men from Naphtali and Zebulun and confront Sisera near Mount Tabor. Barak agreed, but only if Deborah went with him. She consented, but warned that the honor of victory would go to a woman. As Sisera prepared for battle, Deborah urged Barak to attack, assuring him that the Adonai had already gone before him. The Adonai threw Sisera's army into confusion. You see what Yah did for Yashar'al? He threw this guy's army into confusion, and all his troops were slaughtered. Sisera fled on foot and sought refuge in the tent of Jael, wife of Heber, the Kenite. Jael welcomed him, gave him milk, and hid him. Time to bring his guards down. While he slept, Jael drove a tent peg through his head, killing him. When Barak arrived, Jael showed him Sisera's body. Through this victory, Yashar'al began to overpower Jabin until he was completely destroyed. Deborah and Barak sang a triumphant song celebrating Yashar'al's deliverance. They praised Adonai for rallying the people and defeating their enemies. Deborah recalled how the land was in despair, travel was unsafe, and leadership was lacking until she arose as a mother in Yashar'al. She criticized some tribes for staying away, while honoring Zebulun and Naphtali for risking their lives. The song described how kings of Canaan fought but were defeated by divine intervention. Nature itself joined the battle. The river Kishon swept away the enemy, and even the stars fought from heaven. See, when Yah is out to help you, he can move anything. And if he's against you, he can move anything to destroy you. Just like this heat that's happening all over the world, that's part of Yah's judgment for the people that it's targeting right now. If they suffering for, see, he don't make no mistakes. If you caught up in something, people in the world, these nations, Psalm 83, caught up in something because of the heat, storms, lightning strikes, landslides, floods. Y'all don't make mistakes. When he allows stuff like that to happen, those are their judgments. But this is only the beginning, because we just starting to rise. We just starting to rise. A lot of our people still ain't awake yet. You know what I'm saying? So their judgments are just starting, and they're already crying out. Can't take the heat from the sun, and they supposed to be the superior race. They stay in the sun too long, they die. You know, but see, y'all, they're led by Satan, the spirit of Satan. You know what I'm saying? He's been leading them the whole time, Psalm 83. In the book of Revelation 2:9-3:9, I know those who say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. And the Jews lead the world. That's why the world's so messed up. They're not who they say they are. They say they are Jews and are not. They're not Jews. They say they are, but they are not. Okay? Jael was praised above all women for her bravery in killing Sisera, striking him while he slept. The song ended by portraying Sisera's mother waiting in vain for her son, imagining him dividing spoils. The conclusion celebrated Elohim's triumph and the 40 years of peace that followed. Once again, the Israelites did evil, and Elohim handed them over to the Midianites for 7 years. The Midianites, joined by the Amalekites and the people of the east, ravaged the land like a swarm of locusts, destroying crops and livestock and forcing the Israelites to live in caves. Every time they fell off and disregarded Yah and, started sinning, that's just like a good parent. When they see you doing wrong, it's going to catch up with you. They're going to get you. But, you got the law now, keep you from disciplining your children. They want you to end up, when the children go up, they want you to end up in trouble with the police and the court system and stuff so it can get them rich. That's why I don't want you trying to discipline your child. See, Satan is over the whole 83. You know what I'm saying? Satan is over everything. You know what I'm saying? You try to chastise your own child, you can go to jail for it. But it's been like that for at least a few decades. Okay? When the people cried out to the Adonai, he sent the prophet who reminded them of how he had rescued them from Egypt and commanded them not to worship foreign gods, but they had disobeyed. Then the angel of the Adonai appeared to Gideon, who was secretly threshing wheat to hide it from the Midianites. The angel called him a mighty warrior and told him Elohim had chosen him to deliver Yashar'al. Gideon questioned how he, from the weakest family in Manasseh, could save Israel. But Elohim promised to be with him. Gideon asked for a sign. He prepared food as an offering, and the angel consumed it with fire before vanishing. Terrified, Gideon feared for his life, but the Adonai assured him with peace. Gideon then built an altar named "The Adonai is Peace." That night, Elohim instructed him to destroy his father's altar to Baal and the Asherah pole beside it. Gideon obeyed, but did so at night out of fear. When the townspeople discovered what he had done, they demanded his execution. But his father defended him, saying, if Baal was a god, he could defend himself. From then on, Gideon was called Jerubbaal. The Midianites, Amalekites, and eastern tribes gathered to fight. The spirit of the Adonai came upon Gideon, who blew a trumpet to rally support from Manasseh, Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali. Still unsure, Gideon asked Elohim for 2 signs using a fleece. First, he asked that the fleece be wet while the ground remained dry. Elohim granted this. Then Gideon reversed the request, dry fleece and wet ground. And again, Elohim confirmed it. Encouraged by these signs, Gideon prepared to deliver Yashar'al. Gideon, also called Jerubbaal, gathered his troops near the spring of Harad to face the massive Midianite army. But Elohim told Gideon he had too many men. He didn't want Israel to claim the victory as their own. Gideon first sent home 22,000 who were afraid, leaving 10,000. Yet Elohim said that was still too many. He had Gideon bring the men to the water, and those who lapped water with their hands were chosen. Only 300. Elohim promised victory with just these 300 men. That night, Elohim told Gideon to go down to the enemy camp to hear what they were saying. Gideon, taking his servant Phurah, overheard a Midianite recounting a dream in which a barley leaf toppled a tent, interpreted as Gideon's victory. Encouraged, Gideon returned and rallied his small army. He split them into 3 groups, giving each man a trumpet and a jar with a torch inside. At night, they surrounded the camp, blew their trumpets, smashed the jars, and shouted, "A sword for the Adonai and for Gideon." Panic spread among the Midianites. Elohim caused them to turn their swords on each other. You see what he did for Yashar'al? Father Yah caused the Midianites to turn their swords on each other. Okay? You'll move mountains to save Yashar'al when we walk in obedience to him, family. Okay? The enemy fled, and Israelites from surrounding tribes joined in the pursuit. 2 Midianite princes, Oreb and Zeb, were captured and killed. Their heads were brought to Gideon. Okie dokie, moving right along. That was deliverers and disorders. Now I'll be moving, family, to the book of Jeremiah in the Ethiopian Bible. And this part here where I will start is called Cracks in the Nation. Cracks in the Nation, family. The Adonai spoke to Jeremiah, commanding him to proclaim his covenant to Judah and Jerusalem, obey my words. Now we went from the time where he was giving Yashar'al judges and the up and down relationship. Now they're in the time where Israel is receiving kings. They wanted kings like the other nations. Okay, but y'all wanted to be their king, but they wanted to be like the other nations, and they wanted human kings. Now, the Seesaw relationship that Yashar'al had with Elohim, now this is the southern kingdom of Judah. The last king is King Zedekiah. Okay, and ever since King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon took King Zedekiah of Judah, the southern kingdom, down, the Gentiles have been in power over Yashar'al ever since. And out of all that time, it has been Jacob's trouble. It ain't gonna be no Jacob's trouble in the future. Okay? We've been suffering Jacob's trouble ever since Nebuchadnezzar took down King Zedekiah, and the northern kingdom had already been taken into captivity into Syria before this. Okay? So now we're coming into our blessings. But still, Yah has not sent Yahushua HaMashiach back to take down 83 yet, even though he's been sending curses against them in the world, all over, here and there. So family, still, we have to watch our backs, especially when we're alone, because we know that Yah has placed spirits among these people to make them, to lead them astray from him. And at the same time, they're being led, as these people who Yah did not choose are being led astray from him, our Father. Many of them hate Yashar'al. So please watch your back, family. Like this 18-year-old boy, Nolan Xavier Wells. You know, their mom and them got the cell phone, but a lot of stuff been deleted. But if it was just a drowning, why they deleting stuff? You know, but this is 2026. You know, anything deleted from phones, all that stuff can be recaptured, you know, with software and stuff. So they got a good, expensive attorney. He put his investigators on that. They can bring all them texts back. You know what I'm saying? That was deleted. You know what I'm saying? But this is still Esau's wicked kingdom, family. So Yashar'al, we got to watch our backs. You know what I'm saying? You know, we feeling the joy and we're coming up, and rightly so, and they're feeling the total opposite. And every time something happened against these people from the Psalm 83 nations, all groups, they want to lash out at Yashar'al. So let that be a warning sign, family. We might be coming into our blessings as they coming into their curses, but please watch your backs. These people are wicked. The Bible says the wicked can't sleep unless they're doing something mischievous. So please keep these scriptures in your mind, family. Okay. Eventually, Yah will, you know, send more curses against them. And the last great curse they're going to see is our Messiah when he come take down all the world's nations. He's coming to take down 83. And you will see that in this message, family, as I continue. Obey my words, and you shall be my people, he's telling Yashar'al. Yet the people have followed the sins of their forefathers, forsaken Elohim for other gods. The Adonai therefore declares judgment. Trouble will come upon them, and their idols will not save them. Even Jeremiah is told not to pray for them. He's talking about Jerusalem, Judah. The same judgments Yah will bring down on his own, the apple of his eye. 83 ain't getting away with nothing. They have stolen land, cursed themselves and their generations till the day of judgment. Yah ain't forgot none of that. Everything has been written down and documented anyway by his mighty angels. He dealt with us for a while we was the tail, and we were suffering the curses, and he used the nations to be our whipping stick. You know what I'm saying? But they went way overboard. They killed way more of my people than they were supposed to, then he gave them authorization to do so. You can find that in the book of Enoch, chapter 89, and so on up in there. Okay, family, and so he dealt with Yashar'al. We suffered the punishment of our curses. Now he's turned back to us, and the Ruach is bringing all things back to our memories. We know who we are. We know where we came from. We know why we was cursed, and then because of our ancestors' sin and all of that. You know what I'm saying? And and now our Father is bringing judgments down on those who were the head over us. 83. You know what I'm saying? They're starting to have all kind of problems all over the world. Heat in Europe, they can't stand it. You know what I'm saying? China, Japan, all these curses against the Gentile nations. 83. All the nations who came together against Yashar'al to do away with Yashar'al, to keep them from being in remembrance. Read the first few verses of Psalm 83. All the nations who came together collectively against Yashar'al. And Esau was the ringleader. Esau was the ringleader. He was mad because he ended up selling his birthright to Jacob, to Israel. You know what I'm saying? So he had hatred. His sons and their people had hatred for their brother Yashar'al ever since. You know what I'm saying? This was family business. But Esau put all the other nations of the world in it to go against Yashar'al. And Satan gave him ideas to make it about white and black. You know what I'm saying? So, their leader, Satan, read Revelation 2:9, Revelation 3:9. That's the synagogue of Satan over there. Those people who have all the money, most of the money in the world, that led all the other nations to hate us. The apple of Yah's eye, the world called Negroes. Okay, family? As I continue. Though once a fruitful olive tree, Judah will now be burned. The people of Anathoth plot Jeremiah's death, but the Adonai will punish them. No remnant will remain. Jeremiah questions why the wicked prosper. The Adonai replies, challenging Jeremiah's endurance and warning of greater trials. Though Yashar'al, once Elohim's beloved, they have turned against him. The land mourns under the weight of their sins. Elohim declares that he will uproot both Judah and her evil neighbors, but will have compassion on those who repent and learn his ways. If they do not, he will destroy them. Elohim instructs Jeremiah to hide a linen belt, which becomes ruin, symbolizing Judah's pride, just as the belt once clung to Jeremiah. Elohim intended Israel to cling to him, but they would not listen. He warns that he will fill the people with drunkenness and dash them together in judgment. See, he brings the judgments against his own people because he loves us. He chastises those whom he loves. But as far as the nations that he didn't choose, Ishmael and his sons, and Esau and his sons, and their sons, all those people, these other nations, he didn't choose. When he brings judgment down on the world, it's total destruction. Okay? I'll get to that part, okay? Okay, their kings, priests, and prophets will fall, but we got it first. Judgment starts at the house of Yashar'al. That's why we got Yah's judgment first. And 83 gonna get it next. Okay, but he gonna bring them all the way down when our Father send our Messiah back to take down all nations. Their kings, priests, and prophets will fall, despite their beauty and blessings. These are still the judgments that went against Yashar'al, okay, when we still had our last king, okay, Zedekiah. Their sin will bring shame, like a leopard cannot change its spots. So Judah is given over to evil and will be scattered. Just prophesied he's going to scatter us around the world. That's exactly what he did. And the judgment also was against us, that he used all nations to oppress us. But they went way overboard. Now they're all under his judgment, all nations, while he's bringing us back up. A drought afflicts Judah. People and animals suffer. Jeremiah pleads with the Adonai for mercy, confessing the nation's sin, but Elohim responds that he will not accept their offerings. Judgment is set. Judgment is set. Just like right now, judgment is set against 83. And ain't nothing they can do to stop his judgments. That's why when the judgments was against Yashar'al for a time, nothing nobody can do to stop those judgments, because judgment was set. When judgment is set, it has nothing to do with us forgiving our oppressors for what they did. That ain't gonna stop Yah's judgment that he has against them. It's already written. No apologies we can say to them is gonna stop Yah's judgment. They cursed themselves for taking land that didn't belong to them. They cursed themselves for burning up scriptures, lying about who are the chosen people of Yah. All of this they have to pay for. He says, don't add nothing to his word, don't take nothing from it. They have a lot of sins to pay for. The abominable Roman Catholic Church is where slavery started. They gave Portugal and Spain the right to capture with the papal bulls documents. They gave them the right to find Negroes all the way around the world and chain them up and make slaves out of them. The abominable Roman Catholic Church. So a lot of people, these nations, all of them, collectively, because they sold Yashar'al around the world and they all got rich off Yah's people. Read Job chapter 3. All of that has to be paid for. He was dealing with his own people first and our curses and our punishment. Now we suffered that. Now he's focusing on bringing the judgments down on 83. That's what's going on in the world. Everything they try to do, it ain't working for, because Yah's judgments have begun against 83, family, in this world. As I continue, family, false prophets have promised peace, but they will perish. The people will also fall to the sword and famine. Jeremiah mourns deeply and intercedes again, but Elohim declares their sins too great. Only he can bring rain and restore them. See, once judgment is set, it don't matter how many prophets prayed for Yashar'al when we was in our sin. It wasn't going to stop Yah from bringing the judgments, because it was too much sin and it had to be paid for with judgments. Okay? Curses. Now we suffered. He let the nations have their way with us for centuries. They did, and they went overboard. Now it's their time to receive these judgments. All this heat and stuff people can't take, all kind of stuff going on in the world. They are Yah's judgments against the nations, okay? Even if Moses and Samuel stood before Elohim, he would not spare the people. He's talking about Yashar'al, because our sins had built up, our ancestors' sin had piled up to heaven. They're like, nah, ain't nobody gonna be able to pray this off you. These people got judgments coming. Just like 83 now, okay? They are destined for death, sword, famine, and captivity. Their sins, especially those under Manasseh's reign, have provoked divine wrath. Jeremiah laments his calling, cursed by all. Elohim reassures him, if he remains faithful, Elohim will protect and deliver him. The prophet must continue to stand firm, for he is Elohim's mouthpiece. He's Elohim's mouthpiece. But Yashar'al wouldn't listen to him. That's why they had to suffer the punishment. Just like Yah, by this Ruach HaKodesh, is speaking through many of us now, telling the truth to 83, but they don't want to hear what we got to say. Our people did the same thing to the prophets he sent them. And they don't want to hear what Yah has to say through his chosen seed. Ain't nothing going to stop their judgments either. They've already begun. Okay? They curse themselves, more they won't listen to Yashar'al, because we speaking the truth of Yah by his Ruach HaKodesh. Elohim forbids Jeremiah from marrying or mourning, as all joy and life will vanish from the land. When people ask why, Jeremiah must say it is due to their idolatry and sin. The people have done worse than their fathers and will be exiled. Yet Elohim promises a future restoration. For all those people in Sunday churches who think Yah kicked Yashar'al to the curb and now he has a new thing with the Gentiles, that is a bold-faced lie. Scripture here says, yet Elohim promises a future restoration for Yashar'al. No Jacob's trouble is coming for Yashar'al. We have suffered Jacob's trouble for centuries. Now we're looking for that restoration. And it has already begun. It's already begun. Okay? He's turned back to us. And he's causing us to spend more money with our people. We didn't kick the other nations to the curb because we're tired of their hatred toward us. You know why? Because it's God's time to curse them. So he turned us away from spending our money with them. All that got something to do with it. And it's time for him to bless us because we're on the way back up. So now he's causing us to want to bless our own people. Okay? Because the judgments are against 83 right now, family. As I continue. He will bring them back from distant lands. That's what's going to happen. But first will repay their sins. He promised to bring us back from distant lands. That's talking about the second Exodus worldwide, family. From all lands and all islands, he's going to gather us again. Okay? The nations will one day recognize the Adonai and abandon their false gods. When your father sent Yahushua Mashiach, everybody going to recognize him, okay? Judah's sin is deeply engraved upon their hearts. Trusting in man leads to curse, but trust in the Adonai brings blessings. The heart is deceitful, and Elohim searches each person's to reward or judge. See, ain't nobody getting away with nothing. You see, the heart is deceitful, and Elohim searches each person to reward or judge. When people try to act like they're your friend, like them boys down there in Mississippi did that boy, trying to act like they're his friend, they probably trying to coax him to get high and stuff. Ain't no telling, but they left him and he ended up dead. You know what I'm saying? But see, Yah, he see what's in everybody's heart. You can't fool him. You know what I'm saying? I used to live in Mississippi, and I moved down there in November 1993. I was 29 years old. That's me and my kid's mother. We had one child, and we was pregnant with another one. So she went ahead of me, and I told her I'd go after I sold everything in my apartment. So I ended up going down there a couple months after she had moved down already, because her mom and stepdad was down there, and I talked to them on the phone long distance, and they told me they could help me find work. So I went down there to Mississippi to work and raise my kids with their mama. And when I got down there, my father, he was allowed in. He begged me not to go because he's from Alabama. He knew all the racism down there. I said, Dad, I got 2 kids to raise, man. I ain't scared of nobody, no Mississippi. I respect people everywhere I go. I don't try to act like I'm better than nobody wherever I go, but I don't allow nobody to bother me either because I don't bother people. But I ain't had no problems in Mississippi, I had 2 jobs down there in the 5.5 months I was there. And my job at Denny's restaurant, I got along with all my white co-workers. They got along with me. But after work, I went back to the neighborhood where I lived, and I hung out with my people. And we had a great time together. And that's normal. You know what I'm saying? But, Yah, he searches everybody's heart. It says here either to reward them or judge them. Like sometimes people try to act like they're your friend. They're jealous of you. They got hate for you, But if you don't read body language, you'll never see it. And sometimes people ignore stuff. You should never ignore red flags, family. When dealing with people, it's showing you how they really feel about you. You know what I'm saying? For real. I mean, it's like me, myself, I could thrive in crowds of people. I tried that most of my life, but when you become a child of Yah, he keeps us isolated to protect us. I've read that in the Nag Hammadi. You know what I'm saying? In the law scriptures. So when you're isolated, don't feel bad about it, family. This is Yah's will. You belong to him. And it says, when by the time your life is over, the Ruach HaKodesh is going to have all us exactly where we need to be before it's time for us to go home to be with our Father. And I did a message on this about a year ago. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, as I continue, family, riches gained unjustly will vanish. Jeremiah pleads for healing and protection. The Adonai commands strict Sabbath observance. If obeyed, blessings will follow, but if not, fire will consume Jerusalem. Elohim tells Jeremiah to visit a potter, revealing how he shapes nations like clay. If a nation repents, he relents. If it sins, he retracts blessings. Judah, however, insists on its own ways. Because of their idolatry, desolation will come. The people conspire against Jeremiah, but he prays for justice. He asks Elohim to judge them for their evil plots against him. You see what I'm saying? Just like our oppressors. They keep oppressing us, killing our people, even hanging them in 2026. And we supposed to forgive these people? Of course not. We supposed to be praying to our Father for his vengeance against them. Just like Jeremiah did when our people was trying to take him out. He didn't ask Yah to forgive them. He asked Elohim to judge them for their evil plots against him. You know what I'm saying? You know, come on now. I'm thinking about that video Brother Big Judah showed us, how this lady told me, we must forget. No. That's what she learned in the Sunday church. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, Jeremiah is to shatter a clay jar before the elders to symbolize coming judgment. The valley of Hinnom will become the valley of slaughter. For their child sacrifices and idolatry, the Adonai will bring such horror that people will eat one another during the siege. That's what happened to our family because they were so far from Yah in their sins and idolatry. The city will be burned. Back in the temple, Jeremiah declares that all these evils will fall upon Jerusalem because they have refused to listen. Just like the nations refused to listen, and the judgments of Yah has already started on 83. Okay, now this part of the message, family, is called Prophecies in Motion. When King Zedekiah sent messengers to Jeremiah to seek the Adonai's help against the Babylonians' siege, Elohim replied, with judgment he declared he would turn their own weapons back on them, fight against them in fury, and strike the people and animals with the plague. Those who stayed would fall by the sword, famine, and pestilence. Only those who surrendered to Babylon would survive. It was Yah's time to take down Yashar'al and all the surrounding nations. He was allowing the Gentiles to come up over them during this time. And he told Jeremiah to tell Zedekiah, if you obey the king of Babylon, you will live in peace in Babylon. But if you try to fight against him, you're going to be slaughtered. Okay? And they wouldn't listen to Jeremiah. They wanted King Zedekiah would listen to Jeremiah, but he had other false prophets in the other ears, telling them lies. Okay? Elohim warned the royal house of David to act with justice or face his unquenchable wrath. The city, despite its confidence, will be consumed by divine fire for its evil ways. Elohim constructed Jeremiah to warn the king of Judah to uphold justice and protect the vulnerable. Obedience would preserve the royal dynasty. Rebellion would lead to ruin. The palace, once majestic, would become desolate. Elohim condemned kings who built wealth through oppression and predicted disgraceful ends for unrighteous rulers like Shalem and Jehoiakim. Despite past prosperity, Judah refused correction and chased idols, so Elohim pronounced exile and shame upon them. Even Coniah would be cast out, his lineage cut off from his kingship. Woe also declared unto corrupt leaders who scatter Elohim's people. But Elohim promised to gather his flock and raise up a righteous king from David's line to reign with justice. Prophets and priests were opposed for their wickedness, spreading lies and false hope. Their visions were not from Elohim, and they led many into sin. The Adonai declared his word like fire and denounced those who falsely claimed divine messages. He cursed our people when they did it. He's going to bring down 83 for doing it. Telling lies. They ain't getting away with nothing either. Our people didn't get away with it. The apple of his eye, neither will 83. Those who twisted his words would face everlasting reproach, for they had perverted the truth. Just like 83 has been doing, perverting the truth. You see all kind of YouTube channels. They pervert the truth. Still showing pictures of white Jesus as the Messiah. You know what I'm saying? Still showing whitewashed images of everything while they're being judged right now with all these storms and fires and all kind of stuff. But see, they don't know the judgments of Yah. That's why they remain in their wickedness. They don't know the judgments of Yah. But that is all part of Yah's judgment against them. So they won't know. Okay, because they have judgments to pay for all the wickedness that they're spread throughout the world. The whole world is messed up because 83 been in charge of it for so many years. Elohim showed Jeremiah 2 baskets of figs, one with good figs representing the exiles of Babylon, whom Elohim would bless and restore with a heart to know him, the other with rotten figs, symbolizing King Zedekiah and those who remained in Jerusalem or fled to Egypt, whom Elohim would scatter and curse. The evil ones would face destruction by sword and famine and pestilence. Those are judgments. Sword, famine, pestilence. The faithful exiles would eventually return and prosper under Elohim's care. Jeremiah recounted how for 23 years he had warned Judah, yet they refused to listen. Elohim would now send Babylon to destroy the land. Silence all joy and make it desolate, and make it a desolation for 70 years. Afterward, Babylon too would be punished. Jeremiah was told to give the nations a cup of Elohim's wrath. From Judah to distant lands, all would drink and stagger under divine judgment. This is when he was bringing the judgments down on his chosen people. Destruction would sweep the earth, and the Adonai would roar in fury, executing justice on the wicked. He didn't let our people get away with it. Neither will he let the nations get away with it. Like I keep saying, the judgments have already started. At the temple, Jeremiah delivered a stern message. Unless Judah repented, Elohim would make the city like Shiloh. Angered, the priests and people sought his death. Jeremiah stood firm, declared Elohim had sent him. The officials and some elders defended him, recalling how Hezekiah once heeded Micah's warnings. Another prophet, Urijah, was not so fortunate. He fled but was captured and killed. Jeremiah was spared through the support of Ahikam, preventing his execution by the mob. Elohim commanded Jeremiah to wear a yoke and send messages to the surrounding nations, declaring that he had given them to Nebuchadnezzar. Any nation that refused Babylon's rule would suffer. He used Babylon as Yashar'al's judgment stick, okay, as their whipping stick. Any nation that refused Babylon's rule would suffer sword, famine, and pestilence. False prophets who claimed otherwise were lying. Jeremiah warned Judah's leaders and priests not to believe such lies. All remaining temple vessels would also be taken to Babylon and stay there until Elohim restored them. Submission to Babylon was the only path to survival. Hananiah falsely prophesied that Babylon's yoke would be broken within 2 years. Jeremiah challenged him, saying, "Peace, prophets, are proven only when their words come true." Hananiah broke Jeremiah's wooden yoke, but Elohim sent Jeremiah back with the message. The wooden yoke would be replaced with iron. Because Hananiah led the people to trust a lie, he would die that year. And indeed, he died in the 7th month, as Elohim had declared through Jeremiah. Jeremiah sent the letter to the exiles in Babylon, urging them to settle, build homes, and seek peace for the city. And that was only our option to do when we was in our curse, and he allowed them to come up over us. The best thing we could do during that time was to build homes, seek peace for the city. Urging them to settle, build homes, and seek peace. Just chill out, because that's his will. They were suffering the curses, and he allowed the Gentiles to come over them. But see, they had judgments to suffer too. See, he disciplined us and chastised us, Yashar'al, and he promised that he would restore us. I just read it. He promised to restore us, and he's starting to do that now as he's bringing the judgments down on 83. He warned them not to be deceived by false prophets promising quick deliverance. After 70 years, Elohim would bring them back, having plans of peace and hope. Those who refused his word would face sword, famine, and shame. Specific false prophets like Ahab, Zedekiah, and Shemaiah were condemned for their lies and rebellions. Shemaiah's lineage would be cut off as punishment. His whole lineage was cut off. Okay, now family, this part of Jeremiah is called Judgment Becomes Reality. The Adonai spoke to Jeremiah as Babylon's armies besieged Jerusalem in its cities. He told Jeremiah to warn King Zedekiah the city would fall, the king would face Nebuchadnezzar, and be taken to Babylon. Yet he would die peacefully, mourned by his people. Zedekiah had made a covenant to free Hebrew slaves, and the people obeyed at first, but later they took back those they had freed. Elohim condemned this betrayal because they broke his covenant. He declared judgment, sword, famine, and plague would overtake them. Those who violated the oath would be handed over to their enemies. Jerusalem would burn and Judah would be left desolate. You see, our Elohim, he is a Elohim of justice. He's the just judge. That's one of his names, his titles. He's the just judge. He's called that in the lost scriptures, in the apocalypse of Paul, the just judge. So he wouldn't fit that name if he didn't chastise Yashar'al for our sins and our ancestors' sins. He's a just judge. So when you keep up sin and disobedience and idolatry, because he's a just judge, he has to bring the punishment against our people like he did. And we have suffered that. And now he's turned back to us like he promised to restore us. Okay, and that's going on now. Now his judgments are turned toward 83, the world's nations, all the world's nations. Some are going to get it worse than others, depending on how much they did against his chosen people worldwide. Elohim sent Jeremiah to test the Rechabites by offering them wine. They refused, honoring their ancestor Jonadab's command to abstain and live in tents. Elohim praised their obedience, contrasting it with Judah's refusal to heed his prophets. Because of their faithfulness, Elohim promised that Jonadab's descendants would always stand before him, but to Judah he declared judgment for their continual disobedience despite his repeated warnings. The Rechabites' loyalty stood as a rebuke to the unfaithful people of Jerusalem. Okay? And I'm going to just leapfrog some verses. Okay, right here it says, Elohim commanded Jeremiah to rewrite the scroll, adding more words of judgment. Okay? And then Zedekiah ruled in Judah, but ignored Elohim's words. Okay? Elohim replied, the Chaldeans would return and destroy the city, because King Zedekiah wouldn't listen. Okay? And then verse 41 here. After being released from captivity, Jeremiah was offered freedom by Babylon's captain, who acknowledged that Jerusalem's destruction was due to Israel's sin. Jeremiah chose to stay in Judah with Gedaliah, the governor appointed by Babylon. Okay? And the last of this part right here is called the oracles to the nations. And it says, the Adonai will send destroyers against Babylon, for she made the nations drunk with their pride. Now he used Babylon to take down the southern kingdom of Judah. Now they are being judged, you see, because they're full of sin while they're doing these things. Okay? The Adonai will send destroyers against Babylon, for she made the nations drunk with her pride. Babylon wants a golden cup, shall fall. Flee from her judgment. The Adonai will raise up the Medes against her. And that happened already. He's talking about the old nation of Babylon, okay? Her idols are false, but Yashar'al's Elohim is true. The Adonai calls Babylon his battle axe. He used them for a battle axe. Now broken, nations will rise against her. Her land will tremble. Babylon devoured Zion, talking about Jerusalem. Now the Adonai will avenge. Her seas will dry, her walls fall, and her people sleep, a perpetual sleep. A book is sent with a curse. Babylon will sink, never to rise. Zedekiah reigned in Babylon. Zedekiah reigned in rebellion, and Babylon seized Jerusalem. The city fell, the king fled, but was captured. His sons were slain, his eyes put out, and he was taken to Babylon. Nebuzaradan burned Jerusalem, broke down the walls, and exiled the people. Temple treasurers were looted, and its leaders slain. Judah was taken captive. Years later, King Jehoiakim was freed and honored by the Babylonian king, receiving daily provision for the rest of his life. That was the last king Yashar'al had, the southern kingdom, Judah, King Zedekiah, who didn't obey the prophet Jeremiah, who was Yah's mouthpiece. And ever since, Yashar'al has been under the nations all that time. Like I said, the northern kingdom of the 10 tribes had already been taken captive by the Assyrians. So all that time we have been suffering Jacob's trouble. Now we have been raised back up and brought together. And so we know who we are, and we know why these things happen to us. We see it in scripture now, because the Ruach is bringing everything back to our memories. So don't listen to people who pushing lies and Gentile breakdowns of scripture is to keep your throat off, talking about Jacob trouble is coming. Now, I know Jacob trouble is coming. Trouble is coming for all the Psalm 83 nations, worldwide. Okay, now family, I'll be going over to the Old Testament, Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1, Testament of Moses. And it says here, Testament of Moses, chapter 10, verse 1 to 10. Then his kingdom will appear throughout his whole creation. Then the devil will have an end. Yes, sorrow will be led away with him. The devil will have an end, and all the nations that he's been leading the whole time. That's talking about 83. They're all coming down. There will be filled the hands of the messengers who is in the highest place appointed. Those messengers are Yah's angels. Yea, he will at once avenge them of their enemies. For the heavenly one will arise from his kingly throne. Yea, he will go forth from his holy habitation. Our Father is sending our Messiah from his holy habitation. Okay? With indignation, that's anger, and wrath on behalf of his sons, Yashar'al, and the mighty angels, okay, who've been fighting all these evil spirits for us the whole time. And the earth will tremble. That's when he's came back now. He's been sent back. And the earth will tremble, even to its end shall it be shaken, and the high mountains will be made low. Our Messiah is going to bring them all down. He's here destroying the world now, okay? Yea, they will be shaken, as enclosed valleys will they fall. The sun will not give her light, and in darkness the horns of the moon will flee. Yea, they will be broken in pieces. The sun will not give her light, neither will the moon. That can also be found in Matthew chapter 24, Mark chapter 13, Joel chapter 2 or chapter 3, Zechariah chapter 14, and many other places. This is when our Messiah is coming back. Okay, he's been sent back by our Father Yah. It will be turned wholly into blood. Yea, even the circle of the stars will be thrown into disarray. And the sea, all the way to the abyss, will retire, to the sources of waters which fail. Yea, the rivers will vanish away. For Elohim the Most High will surge forth, the Eternal One alone. In full view will he come to work vengeance on the nations. Yea, all their idols will he destroy. Okay, family? Then will you be happy, O Yashar'al. This is when he's coming to avenge us. He's coming to triumph over 83 once and for all, when our Messiah is sent back here. And you will mount up above the necks and the wings of an eagle. Yea, all things will be fulfilled. When all things will be fulfilled, we suffered the punishment of our curses. He's raising us back up. He's judging 83 right now in different ways all over the world. And then when all things will be fulfilled, it's when our Father send him back to take down the nations. All things will be fulfilled, okay? And he's going to set up his kingdom in the earth for 1,000 years in the midst of Yashar'al and allow us to rule all nations. as he ruled the world with the rod of iron. Okay? And Elohim will raise you to the heights. He's talking about Yashar'al. He said, O Israel, and Elohim will raise you to the heights. Yea, he will fix you firmly in the heavens of the stars, in the place of their habitations. We're being exalted during these times. And you will behold from on high. Yea, you will see your enemies on the earth, and recognize them. You will rejoice, and you will give thanks. Yea, you will confess your Creator. Yes, we will. And in closing, I have one verse from the 66. Okay, like I keep saying that 83's judgments have already started. Okay, Revelation chapter 16 verse 8 says, and the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. Sources say in Europe right now, over 20,300 people have died from heat-related deaths. And just still the early part of July. Okay? So these are all a parts of the judgments of Yah. The fourth angel pouring his vial out on the sun, apparently he done already done it. Okay? And they're suffering these extreme temperatures also in China, Japan, parts of the U.S., and everybody who's really suffering from it, these people who are becoming victims of it, fatally, Yah, like I say, Yah don't make mistakes. He don't make mistakes. His creation is organized, and he have angels over all of it. And they have meetings, they have counsel about the wickedness and the sin that's going on in the earth in these nations. As Yah and his angels, mighty angels, have counsel, after they get done discussing things, Yah gives it to his mighty angels, who he has placed over different nations, different things in the earth, to carry out the judgments in the world against the nations. And you see this heat, extreme heat, that ain't no mistake. That's done on purpose. And it's affecting mostly Esau and the Gentiles, because it's their time to start suffering their judgments. But this is only the beginning. Okay, family, so this has been a seesaw and up and down relationship with Yashar'al and Elohim, Yah's final triumph over 83. I hope you got some understanding in Yah's precious name. So until next time, may Yah bless you, your families, stay safe, and I do love each and every last one of you. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters in Yah. One love and shalom.